on the Netflix movie Sergio, I met Carolina Llarera, it was basically her story, literally the day after I had fitted Ana de Armas.
Oh, wow.
And we bumped her in the street, just totally by chance. And I invited her back to the office to say, listen, this is your character that I've done. I want to show you. And when the movie came out, people literally said to Carolina, did Jo climb into your closet and steal all your clothes?
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. My guest today is somebody that I normally only see in the sea, but this time I finally managed to get her on this podcast. We've been trying for a while, and I am very, very happy to have her. She is a costume designer and works in the film and TV industry. Global fashion, she has been nominated for awards. She is a fascinating person, and I am so happy that you're here today. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Jo Katsaras.
Thank you, Elisabeth. I'm honored to be on your show.
So let's tell the people who are listening to us why I see you in the sea, because we go to an aquafit class together that is done by our common friend, Nicole. And Nicole also introduced me to you because you had tickets to a pre-show, I don't know what you call it, a previewing of this beautiful film done by Stellana Clearis, which is made Cyprus famous, which is Find Me Falling.
Correct.
So we'll come back to Find Me Falling. I want to talk about that, but I want to start with something else. You were born in Cyprus, weren't you?
I was, yes.
And your parents moved to South Africa?
In 1971, I was 5 years old. My parents moved to South Africa, to Johannesburg. There, my life just opened up. The color, the people. You know, Johannesburg in the 70s was this like melting pot of cultures. A lot of people were moving there. And I think I'm very fortunate that we did move, because I often wonder, would my life take the same trajectory if we'd remained in Cyprus? And that my life had not been opened up to different cultures and colors and textures. However, even in going to South Africa, my parents would send me back to Cyprus in the summer because I was then the only grandchild in a rather big family. So she'd send me back to Cyprus to visit grandmother and the aunts and the uncles. So literally every year of my life, I would come to Cyprus, as most expats do, send their children back. But I was always a little displaced because I felt like I was Cypriot, but I was considered not from here. And in South Africa, I was a foreigner too. So, you know, it's sort of that kind of shaped who I am. And I'm a global gypsy. I travel the world and make movies.
I think that's the sort of the story of most people like you. I see that with my kids, you know, they are half Swiss, they are half Cypriot. They don't really know where home is. And then on the other hand, they have two homes. And it's exactly that. And I think this makes you more global. But you said something about South Africa, and I love Africa. I think Africa is the most beautiful, colorful continent, and many people don't never think of it that way. I am sure that the colors of Africa and the tradition have a lot to do with what you do.
They do, because it gave me a certain insight into culture, different culture, sense of style. I mean, for me, South Africans have the most unique way of putting stuff together. And I often draw my inspiration there. And remember, I was 5 and vulnerable and going to this strange land, which has become my spiritual home. Cyprus is my motherland, but South Africa is definitely my spiritual home. Opened my eyes to, first of all, it was the midst of apartheid. So even in the flat that we lived in, I found it strange that we were actually in the penthouse of the apartment block, but above us were the servants' quarters, and at 6 o'clock there was curfew. and because they couldn't be out on the streets after 6 until 6 in the morning again. So not so much in the weekdays because most of them worked, but on the weekends they would party all weekend because they couldn't go anywhere. So very often on a Monday morning, I had to step over, our flat being the one just below the servants' quarters. I would often have to step over drunk bodies to go to school. But it also gave me a open-heartedness to communicate and a friendliness towards these people. So it bonded me to Africa in a strange kind of way. So young in life. Whereas Cyprus is much more protected and sheltered. Suddenly I was exposed to so much more.
Yeah,
and what fascinated me then was all the tribal stuff, the colors of each tribe, the Zulus, the Xhosas, the Sutus, just fascinating.
I can believe that. I actually envy you for that, because that must have been so, for a little girl, it must have been so fascinating. Now, you told me something, and I want to come back to that.
Yeah.
You came to Cyprus. Was your grandmother a seamstress? Somebody was a seamstress in your life?
My aunt was a seamstress.
Okay.
Yes, I would be here for a month in July, sometimes August. And I had a soft spot for this auntie of mine. And she was a seamstress. And I would sit under her sewing machine and she'd give me offcuts and I would make clothes for my dolls. And that was the beginning of my career, actually. And then I got into, I had this creative streak, and I went to the Johannesburg Art Ballet Music and Drama School, so I could draw really well and I could paint. And I had no formal training in design, but I would put my friends down on the fabric and cut the fabric around them, and somehow the outfits worked. So I had an innate understanding of pattern cutting. And then when I finished school, I actually wanted to go into architecture, which is quite similar in the construction of clothing patterns. It's taking an idea from 1 dimension to 3 dimension. But in those days, architecture was like a 7-year course. And I had such itchy feet to travel. And my dad was like, well, get something behind you and then go traveling. And so I managed to get myself into the final year of a fashion degree, which I did, because I could draw and I could sew. And what I needed was learning how to do patterns. And that's what I did. And then I went traveling. And it was actually totally by coincidence that I got into film. To be honest, I didn't even know that a costume design career even existed. After I came back from my travels and I had finished my studies, I did get employed by a company, quite a well-known South African company that was doing menswear, and they were going to start a female range. So they headhunted me to do that. But I realized very soon that mass production and, making ratings and how much fabric and buttons and, of thousands of pieces was not my thing. I was more into individual character stuff, which there's a big difference between fashion and costume design. And that central piece is character, because we're telling a story. Mm-hmm. And unless it's a high-end film where the character itself is very fashionable, mostly it's character-driven, which tied in beautifully to my love of people watching and studying people. And, okay, so what would this person do? What would Elisabeth wear around her neck? Or what kind of watch would Elisabeth wear? Taking into account the social, the economic, the psychological, the emotional, and your background. That's what I do with each character. Who is this character? Where did they come from? How did they grow up? And so forth. And there's so many elements at play, whereas fashion is very different.
Oh my God, I have a lot of questions now, but I have one question that I want to go back to when you were making clothes with your aunt. Did she actually let you use the sewing machine?
No, it would be by hand. And then when I was 8, my parents did buy me a sewing machine, actually.
Because I have a memory, my grandmother had a sewing machine, and she had one of those singers where not an electric one, where you had
the windy,
yes.
yeah.
And I actually that the needle went through my fingernail.
Ouch.
I don't, and I wasn't talented. I mean, I just played with it. But I think every little girl has this fascination to want to use this thing and see what you can make of it. Now, coming to making a film.
Yes.
How does this work? Do people choose you? I mean, how do they choose Jo Katsaras? How does this happen?
Firstly, I believe in what's for me won't go by me. So if I look at all the films that I've done, I was meant to do them for some reason. I believe that film is incredibly powerful to shift people's emotions. And I am drawn to quite a lot of true stories. I'm drawn to scripts. So I will get a script and my agent will say, so-and-so is interested in you to read the script. That is my connection point. I'll make my cup of tea. And if I don't connect in that first read and start seeing the visuals, I won't do the movie, because you put so much into a film. And if there isn't that creative connect, it's going to be a struggle. Many, many scripts I've turned away. Then I'll read the script and I'll have the meet with either the producers or the director or the creatives, showrunners. And then we see if there's a creative connect there, like a synergy between us. And then a deal is made and I get start dates and then I start on the project. Sometimes there's a creative connect with everybody, and sometimes it's just with one person. But for me, the most important one is the director. And the second important one is also the writer and the showrunner. But the director is important because that's the person who's got to get into my head and I've got to get into theirs and figure out that we're telling the same story, because we paint on this. I always say we paint on the same canvas. It's myself, the production designer, and the cinematographer and the director. We're all painting on the same canvas. So that artwork's got to be really beautiful and we've got to be in sync with each other. And there's a magic that happens when those are aligned. And yeah, it's amazing. And there's jobs that I've interviewed for, which I like. A favorite book of mine that I'd read, and I really wanted to do the movie or the series. And the connect with the showrunner was there. In fact, it was the showrunner who wanted me on the project, but the director and I didn't connect.
Mm.
So, I have to accept that it wasn't meant for me,
Yeah.
And that's how it goes.
So you actually get the same script like an actor would get. You get the script of the film, and then you decide. I lost it for a minute here, but now I just remember what was I going to say, because since I know you, I look at films very different. I wonder, like, does the costume designer choose every single piece of clothing that's in a movie?
Yeah.
Because I look at these people now and I think, I mean, this pair of jeans and this T-shirt, that doesn't need a costume designer. They could have just come to work like that. But that's not the case. It's all...
Because it could be a particular pair of jeans that tells a story.
Yeah.
It could be, you might have Levi's in your mind, but the actor's body doesn't suit it.
Right.
Or sometimes so for me, the character comes to life in the fitting room. So I'll go back to the process of doing a movie. So I land up on the job and I start my pre-production. And depending if it's a TV series or a period movie, or the length of time is determined by that and the budget. And then I start with mood boards, because for me, the mood boards are the key. They're the map to getting the director in my head. So visually, seeing as we're working visually, and it may be like a I might put a color in there or a pair of shoes, or often I put random pictures. My mood boards are quite interesting and quite emotive, but it'll inspire the director. Oh, I didn't think about this. Or there'll be a picture that usually connects us. He'll be like, oh my God, that's the movie, or that's this character. And so I put my vision, and then we align. If I need to do some tweaking, I do. And then those mood boards are also a map for my team. So nobody gets lost, because I've got a buyer, a seamstress, I've got costumers, I've got, depending on the show, but I could have up to as many as 50 people in my team. And I just say to them, keep your eyes on the mood boards, then you won't get lost. Don't bring me this or that or whatever because you think. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is the vision. So stick to the mood boards.
I have to come.
Doesn't mean it doesn't allow.
You. I don't know what is a mood board?
A mood board is a vision board of the look that we want for a particular character in the film.
And that stays the same throughout a film?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I get that, yeah.
So, for example, if I was creating Elisabeth, I would do the color of nail polish that she has, what's around her neck, she loves floral dresses, or she likes stripes, or her color palette. This is sometimes before I even know who the actress is. When the actress comes on board, I may have to tweak those a little bit, because what I had in mind will not suit this particular actress or actor. But that's quite rare. Usually what's in my imagination kind of, lands up attracting the correct actor, or, the look that we want and the talent that the director was after.
So this is sorry. I get more and more fascinated. This is a very, very important job.
It is, yes.
Because that guy, the person who writes this script, or it usually sometimes comes from a book, right? And then it gets turned into a script. They don't know you create this person.
Exactly. So often when I work with famous writers and they come to the set, I'm like, I hope I've done your characters that were in your mind justice, because or even when I'm doing when I'm depicting a person that's still alive, that's happened to me where, in fact, on the Netflix movie Sergio, I met Carolina Llarera, it was basically her story, literally the day after I had fitted Ana de Armas.
Oh, wow.
And we bumped her in the street, just totally by chance. And I invited her back to the office to say, listen, this is your character that I've done. I want to show you. And when the movie came out, people literally said to Carolina, did Jo climb into your closet and steal all your clothes?
Wow.
But I hadn't. I had recreated a form of her that was so much like her style that people thought I'd climbed into her closet.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think this is a very, very fascinating profession. But I'm now thinking of a young person who is listening to this and who is dreaming of becoming you. You don't just get called by a famous director, out of nowhere. You have to work your way up. You have to start somewhere. How did you start?
So I was very young, probably 22, 23. I got a phone call from one of my painting teachers from art school saying, would you like to do a commercial? And my answer was yes. And it was a Cadbury's commercial, crunchy, and I had to make everything. It was set in the 60s, and there were 3 sets of triplets in like a waiting room with Dr. Spock, and everything had to be made. And I just absolutely loved it. And I always say that when you're on the right road, it flows. And also to the youngsters, I say, your career will find you. Whatever your passion is, don't sweat it. It'll come and find you. Just show up every day doing what you love, and it'll come and find you. But I know today is very different than the 80s. and the opportunities are much harder, and we have a different online presence, and and demographics have changed a little bit. So I would still say it'll find you, but just it's challenging for them to know what they're going to do at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
But be patient, like it'll come. Whether I was fortunate or lucky that it happened to me, that it just came and the doors opened. And I was actually 24 on my first head of department job, which was very young. I think back now and I think, oh my God, I was a baby. But I had a fearlessness. I didn't even think about the responsibility. And it flowed.
Mm-hmm. But you said something important. You said you have to show up. This is very important. You have to show up, and you also have to recognize opportunities.
Yes. Yeah. And also, if you're talented, you could grab the opportunity, but you could not have the experience. You need to be humble. Like on my very first massive job, it was a Sony Pictures. I mean, I think back how they took such a gamble on me. But what happened there was Jean-Jacques Arnoux had loved my mood boards. Jean-Jacques Arnoux had just done 7 years in Tibet, and he had taken a holiday in Namibia. And he'd taken a charter flight up the coast and discovered all these wild horses. And he was inspired as to how these horses were in Namibia running free. In fact, the movie is called Running Free. And he researched a little bit and discovered that they came there from the Germans in World War II. Sorry, not World War II, World War I, forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
And the vision board that I did in my interview, he loved, and I was very young. I had zero experience, but the producers were very bright. They put me with a team of experienced film crew in my department. So, but I had to be humble and learn and, pay my dues, as you say.
Mm-hmm. But you turned up and you did your best, and that's what what needs to be done, to be humble as well.
Yeah.
Now this podcast is called Most Memorable Journeys, so let's talk a little bit about journeys. You have been working in many different countries. Do you have a favorite place to work, a favorite country to work?
I don't. Each place holds such a special time for me. I've worked from South America to the US to last year I even did Iceland. Although my body's coming from Cyprus and South Africa, my body was not, built for the cold. Yeah. And I did say to the writer and director, I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can do it. He's like, Jo, you've got to do it. Anyway, it's a true story of Gorbachev and Reagan when they met in the 80s to end the Cold War. And I think it's a very relevant piece. It has not yet been released, but they met in Reykjavik and met on a level of two men, connected as two men.
What's the movie called?
Reykjavik.
Reykjavik.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll be watching that, and I will be looking at every piece of at their socks. Do you choose their socks?
Socks.
Yes. Do you choose their underwear?
I have a sock fetish, so of course I choose their socks.
Because for me, it's kind of, I am such a total amateur. For me, this is, I just think these people arrive and you just give them a jacket or something. You completely clothe them.
Completely, yes, because you will see the socks at some point. I mean, my team laugh because they all know that I have a sock fetish. So
the
it's
socks
like,
are
get Jo the most interesting socks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Find Me Falling, because I fell in love with that movie for so many reasons. I had met Stellana at the Cyprus Diaspora Forum. I thought she was such a lovely person. And then I got to watch it because of you. I got to watch it early. And somehow my husband, who is, doesn't normally watch such kind of movies, I think we watched it about 4 times. Did you? Now you want to know, is there a question here? Yes. How did you?
So, Find Me Falling.
Have you worked with Stellana before?
I did her first film with her.
Okay.
And we go back, we discovered at the premiere of the first film that we actually knew each other as children, although I'm much older than her. I won't say
Okay.
how much. But our mothers knew each other. So it was like they met they re-met each other at the premiere of Committed, and it was just so bizarre, like, because our connect is very, Solana and I just have one of those creative connects that is just beautiful. So hoping that we'll do more stuff together. In fact, I've done her latest film as well. But Finally Falling, she'd sent me a couple of years back, like I think it was like 2017 even. Anyway, it was about getting it funded and greenlit and whatever. And when it happened eventually, I have dreams about Stellana making a movie. So I'll phone her and I say, okay, we were on set, this is happening. And lo and behold, like a month or two later, it's happening. Yes, it was a lovely project, and I had the pleasure of working with her again. And Harry was just amazing. In fact, all the cast were amazing. I had a lot of fun. I worked very hard on that show because we didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a big team. I think there were two of us and we had a couple of day players. But I had so much fun and I could swim every day in the sea. It was amazing.
But some of it was filmed during COVID, wasn't it? During the pandemic. I have seen
Just
pictures
after,
with people wearing masks still, some of them. Yeah. That must have been hard. What did you do during during COVID, when you were locked down? You couldn't work. What did you do then?
I was on an American TV show called Fear the Walking Dead when COVID hit. And AMC were incredibly kind to keep us on payroll for a little bit. Then we were, I think, one of the first shows to go back to work. We had to wear the full PPE and do COVID tests. I mean, my poor nose. I'm like, I've had so many things stuck up it. Yeah, it was quite kind of traumatic, I have to say, working in such a rigid environment, and especially, in a industry where you have to be mobile and to be wearing things, and then you've got the mask, and then you've got a thing covering your face, and I'm wearing glasses, and I'm short-sighted, so I have to lift the glasses up, but then I've got to remove it was just chaotic for me personally. We had to do a lot of work from home. It was the beginning of Zoom call meetings. Going to the shops was a nightmare because I'm one of those departments where I go shopping a lot and come into contact with the public. And then the on-set crew are much more protected. They're more confined to just seeing each other. But I would have to go onto set to establish a character's costume. So it was sometimes very difficult for me.
I can imagine.
And then I did another Netflix show just after COVID as well, which took me to Thailand. And when I arrived, Bangkok was in lockdown. So I could only do online orders. I had to convince, I'd worked in Thailand before, so I knew some suppliers of fabrics and had to convince them to open up for me so I could buy fabrics so we could make stuff. It was challenging. So I'm glad those days are over.
Yes, I think we all are. And we are coming to the end already of this conversation. But I have
for more.
I have a question for you, an important question. What is your dream? Who would it be to call you, I don't know, and say, Jo, I have this film. Are you interested? What would that be?
Elisabeth, as I said to you, when I was younger, perhaps I had those dreams. I don't anymore. I have made a promise to myself that I only want to work with lovely people, and because it is a tough industry and there's a lot of egos, you can get taken by it, the whole thing. I know that I'm called by the most amazing people to do their jobs, and it's because I've allowed things to flow. I'm not gung-ho of, it's got to be so-and-so or so-and-so. I don't have that dream, but I dream about continuing to work on amazing projects with amazing human beings. And that is my dream, to carry on doing that.
I think that sounds good enough. I mean, that is already, that is, and also, I will be watching that movie Reykjavik like a hawk, and I will look at every pair of socks and at every scarf, and I will say,
No, there's another one I did before Reykjavik last year called, oh my God, Huntington.
Okay.
With Glenn Powell and Margaret Kelly. That one is going to be a lot of fun.
Okay.
And Stellana's new film called Apart From Her, or the working title of it is Apart From Her. That one was amazing too, because it is set between South Africa and Cyprus. So for both her and me, it was very emotional because it covered our roots, our journeys, and, both countries that we love so much. So it's awesome.
I can imagine that must have been quite emotional.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to all this, and I'll be watching it very, very differently because now I know.
Yes. Great.
Well,
and I'll see you tomorrow morning at Aqua.
Is there anything we didn't say that we should have said?
I could talk for hours, but
I know this is the thing. But I think we got the essence, and I'm fascinated by what to do. I admire you. I think it's amazing, and I look forward to seeing you back in the water. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Jo.
Thank you for having me, Elisabeth. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.